You know when you're playing a new game for the first time and you're quite enjoying it, aside from the few little flaws it has, yet as you continue to spend more time playing the game, what started out as a small little issue gradually grows and grows into a much bigger problem that really starts to piss you off and ruin your enjoyment of the game. Well, that happened to me when I was recently playing Control on PS4. Control is a fun third-person shooter, and its psychic powers reminded me a lot of SUCKS on PS2, and I really enjoyed that game. And just like in that game, the powers in Control are probably one of the best parts about it, as they're really fun to use, from the levitation to the telekinesis and so on. I mean, who isn't going to enjoy killing enemies by throwing toilets at them? Always satisfying. However, a fundamental aspect that a game needs to have for me to enjoy it is functionality, and quite frankly, Control is often shockingly poor at times, with massive drops in frame rate, especially during the bigger fights. But what really stuck out for me was when you paused the game, or rather, when you unpaused it. How the hell did they manage to screw up unpausing the game? I mean, just look at how laggy this shit is when you unpause. How is that even possible? I mean, I checked, and this game has had several patches since release, yet it still does this when you unpause. Oh my god, and this isn't just once in a while either, it's every goddamn time you unpause the game, it will just lag and stutter and skip frames like a crazy son of a bitch for several seconds. I'm just really shocked that a big budget game like this can ship and then still survive 10 patches with a problem as simple as pausing and unpausing. I mean, you can do this in a small empty room or a wide open area, and you can leave it paused for ages or just quickly pause and then unpause, and it will still lag up like this when you unpause it. However, you know what's worse than a broken pause? Well, it's when, for a very brief moment, you forget and you pause it during a big battle or maybe even a boss fight to get closer to the TV and concentrate. And then, when you go to unpause, you realise that you've fucked up here, as you then resume to a goddamn near unplayable state for several seconds while the game creaks and groans as if it's a teenager being woken up by their parents at 1 PM on a Saturday afternoon after a big Friday night. But of course, the enemies still move around like normal at this point, so you're just totally vulnerable here if you've paused surrounded by enemies. And for me, on this boss fight, the choppiness and delayed visual response to my movement caused me to fall down that fucking hole, and I helplessly had to watch as my character just died in this slideshow style animation as it all just lagged up. Fuck! But the broken pause wasn't the biggest problem I had with Control. But seriously, how the fuck do you break the pause anyway? No, the biggest fucking bullshitting problem in Control was its fucking map system and trying to navigate through this environment. Oh my god, I just can't tell you how frustrating the game world of Control is to navigate through, as it really is something that you need to experience for yourself in order to get a better understanding of just how awkward and annoying it is trying to get to a location in this game. Whether it's to reach a mission giver to start a mission, or to reach a boss, or to find a collectible, getting almost anywhere in Control is a right pain in the arse. And attempting to use the map that the game gives you to help you navigate will just lead to more confusion and anger. And it's pretty weird, really, as you'd think the game would be simple, as it's set in a single building with you exploring multiple floors and departments, but my God, the layout of each one is just as confusing and awkward as the last one before it, with lots of dark corridors that you can't really see through, paths that just lead to dead ends. Despite the map showing doors connecting, there'll usually be crates, or the door itself will be sealed completely, blocking you to make getting from point A to B a lot harder than it ever needed to be. The maps just don't help you at all. If you haven't explored an area, it'll either be just missing from the map or completely blacked out, so you can't even see the exact point of where it joins up to the bits you have explored, making it harder for you to find the door to get to that bit. Worse as well is that certain bits of the map you can actually get outside of the boundary when you're looking at the map, so there may be paths that you don't know about because they aren't marked. I mean, look at that, I'm outside of the map there, but it's not even showing up as anything on the map. And all the waypoint markers that are on the map, they aren't even in the right places. Here I'm standing right on top of this waypoint, yet when I look at the map, I'm actually up to the right of it. What the fuck? Stupidly, they also decided to put both the upper and lower sections of any given floor on the map on the same fucking map, even though it's like shaded differently, or at least I think it is. But then there are times when I'm running on the darker green bit and I can actually go through the lighter green bit, so I don't really know what's going on because I haven't gone up any stairs. Like here, I just pass right under it, but the map doesn't really show that it's 2 floors here, so it's really confusing as to what's going on, because I feel like I've got into this room now, but I'm not in the right room that's on the map, and it just tangles you up really badly. If you're going to have two heights on any floor, at least make the lower bit or the upper bit, whatever bit I'm not on, disappear, so when I quickly go and look at the map, I can clearly see all of the paths available to me on this direct level at this height. But because it adds all of it together and it doesn't really colour it right and make a clear distinction between going up and down, it just makes the whole map just really, really confusing, to be honest. And I really didn't like it at all, and it just was really horrible to have to use it. So if you do manage to brave the horrible navigation and you do eventually get to a new area, there is no greater sense of relief when you finally see that big white text come up on screen telling you the name of this new area. It's then just a case of quickly looking around, trying to find that nearest control point so you can make a save and get a new fast travel location to this area, because if you don't find one and you die, you're going to have a real tedious and tough time trying to get back there again. So while you don't have to rely exclusively on the map, the other navigation waypoints that the game sort of uses are just as bad, because throughout each office, each floor, there are a lot of signposts in the building just to tend to point you in the direction of a certain department as if it was a real life office, but these just are quite vague. They just show an arrow, either left, right, up or down, and it isn't really helpful, and I often found myself being led around in circles when I tried to follow these, because it would just give a vague sort of direction, and sometimes it would just be pointed straight into the wall, which just doesn't help me. And I feel like the navigation is at its most bullshit on missions where you need to collect things in multiple areas, as the biggest challenge of those missions for me was just making my way to each of those areas. I just really dreaded every time this mission type happened, as I knew I was in for a good 20 minutes or so of tedious wandering around trying to find my way forward towards the highlighted area on the map where the mission would be. It was made even more frustrating by the fact that there's no waypoints or markers in general, so you can't just ping a location on the map and see a direct path to it. You need to rely on the unreliable and inaccurate map, and then some confusing signposts in the building that vaguely lead you in the direction. I mean, for me, when the toughest thing in the mission is actually getting to the areas without having any combat in between, I think you've kind of failed in your design and layout of the building, because it just really doesn't work. I mean, think about this, right? For me, Control probably took me around 20 hours to finish, but I'd say a good chunk of that runtime was extended by all of the stupid running around I was doing. I don't think I've ever gotten as lost in a game as much as this one, and yet it's all just in a fucking office building. Thank God they never did any outdoor areas. Imagine an open world with this. Fucking hell, it'd just be awful. Jesus. And maybe it was just me, but trying to navigate this building really did suck a lot of enjoyment out of the game for me, especially when I'd die in a mission and respawn right back at a fast travel point and then have to attempt to get my bearings and then try and navigate all the way back to where I was when I died. I can't tell you how frustrating that was, and you really need to be aware of that if you're ever going to play this game, because it is a deal breaker for me. It's a real shame too, as the actual traversal and the way you can move around your environment is really fun. It's just seriously dampened by the actual office building, as it's just a real maze-like and obnoxious area to explore. But the game does have a few good areas where it's much more straightforward and less overly complex, and these are usually the void sections, which are more abstract areas where you jump on these black floating cubes and you're usually always learning a new ability at this point, so they're really fun to just zip across. It's a shame that they're really short though, and it's quite funny how the more abstract void is less complicated to explore than the actual real world office. And I always found myself a bit upset once I completed it and I then transported back to the office, as I knew I was back in the fucking horrible maze-like area. I think a better map with some painted lines on the walls that sort of lead you around the area so you have a better guide, or even your own waypoint marker that you can drop down and then ping out the directional arrows to sort of guide you to it like a GPS, would have helped me enjoy this game a lot more, as the combat and the powers are pretty cool. As it stands though, they fucked up a fundamental thing in the game for me: fun. And I did say this was a fun game earlier, but if the game world isn't fun to navigate and explore, then the game just isn't good in my opinion. And that, for me, is sadly where the game loses its control. And with that pun, I think I've said enough.